are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to episode 15 of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron. He's Chris Infante, and today we have a special guest from Bleeding Green Nation, the legend himself, Michael Kist. What's going on, man?
Ain't no dang legend, man. I'm just a dude. I'm just the audio producer, a guy with the internet, all that stuff. But I appreciate the intro, guys. I hope y'all are doing better than last night.
We always have to hype up our guests because, again, it's like that high school thing. We got to try and hang out with people cooler than us. It makes us seem like we're cooler than we are.
Well, my status has been elevated with the fine company of you, Jen, so I'm excited.
There we go. Nothing but love. Speaking of love, let's talk about some lost love last night.
Yeah.
Usually we recap the games, but honestly,
there's nothing to recap.
Yeah, it's Monday night. Everybody knows what happened. Eagles got blown out of AT&T Stadium. They didn't even show up, honestly. And a lot of turmoil after the game. Lane Johnson making the comments of how things got to be a little bit more stricter with practices. Then Malcolm saying he doesn't know what Lane's talking about. Brandon saying Lane's not thinking what he's talking about. Aguilar saying that he could have caught the ball because he had all that field. Wentz saying that he thought he had a touchdown. Am I missing anything?
No, I think that's pretty much it. You're looking at a very what's the opposite for cohesive? Is uncohesive a word? Because that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. And
broken.
Yeah, broken. Yeah, no, they're a fractured team right now, and leadership is going to have to make up for that. Luckily, Doug Peterson has shown in the past that he can turn things around after big time losses like this. We remember the Saints loss last year was catastrophic. Basically, mathematically nearly eliminated the Eagles from the playoffs. And I know one wants to hear that rah-rah cheer stuff right now, but there is hope in that regard. It still has to get turned around, and it still does look very bad right now. And to the point that the leadership let it get to this point, and it works on all three levels, from the organizational level to the coaches, to the players. I mean, when is this? It's not a Super Bowl hangover, but I feel like they're still drunk off of the Super Bowl because this team has not been the same since. And I don't think it's a Carson Wentz, Nick Foles thing. Mm-mm. I think it's a complacency thing. I think it's a hubris thing. I think it's an ego thing. And right now, this team is just not together. They're not working like a unit. People are leaking stuff out to the press. Guys are contradicting themselves openly to the press. A lot of guys are talking, but they're not saying nothing. They're not saying nothing that's important. They're not saying anything that we want to hear as people that cover the team or even as fans of the team. There is zero positive message coming out of all this. So Doug Peterson needs to take the reins and do something. Now, whether that's firing somebody, moving on from some players, like Orlando Scandrick's not like a thing. That doesn't matter. That's whatever. That's just
that doesn't count. Their best corner. Dude comes in 3 weeks into the season, 4 weeks into the season, gets a strip sack and a return for a touchdown, and then the next week he doesn't even play. And then yesterday he gets his ankles torn apart. Yeah. And now he's gone.
How poorly has that Jets game aged? From 10 sacks and, all these returns for touchdowns and everything like that. I mean, that just shows you how bad Luke Falk was, really. Because coming into that game, I had this from Football Outsiders. Football Outsiders does their DVOA and it, rates efficiency and all this stuff. The Eagles had the biggest week 4 to week 5 jump in DVOA history for their defense. They went from 22nd to 6th for no good reason. And part of the reason is because they don't opponent the Jets early on in the season, and the Jets really don't count as much of an opponent. But I mean, that was spurious. That was fool's gold. That was nothing. This defense is burnt toast, just personified. It's ridiculous. So it's not just not being a cohesive unit, not seeming together as a locker room and as a team, and buying into the same message, which they aren't doing right now. And that's on Doug. But you also get it down to the even more granular level of the scheme that they're using on offense. They're bad at starting games off. They're bad at stopping play action and deep passes and all this other stuff. They're just bad overall. And it comes down to the coaching. Bottom line, how we can get all these players, how we can get LJ Fort, guarantee him some nice little money, have him come in and play. Schwartz didn't want to use him. Linebacker coach didn't want to use him. He goes to Baltimore. He's an instant contributor. He's making splash plays all over the screen yesterday. So where's the disconnect there? That's not on Howie. Howie brought in a decent player that could play. Love this film. And then the coaching staff couldn't do anything with him. And then we get terrible linebacker play after we cut him, after we cut Zach Brown for shooting his mouth off. We got all this bad play across the board. It's the coaching. It has to start there. This is a talented team that everyone thought was a top 3 talented team in the NFL. Any respected media person that really looked at the Eagles would have said this is a deep team. They don't look so deep right now because nobody is playing at the top of their game. And every game we get one guy that's having the worst game of his life. It's bad all around, and the coaches aren't doing anything to make these players better or put them in a position to win.
And I think you just answered a question that I was going to pose to you.
He just took the whole Eagles roster and just split it up.
and just crumpled them up, and then they just shoot them up and spit them out. So my question, like today, I tweeted out, it's one of two things. It's not both. It's either Doug has trust in his coaches and he needs to find players to fit the scheme, or he trusts his players and he needs to find coaches to have a scheme to fit these players. And it's not both. You can't have, because obviously both is not working.
Yeah.
Obviously these players don't fit Schwartz's scheme, or Schwartz's scheme sucks. And I think it's that. Because, again, like yesterday watching the game, they were down however many touchdowns, and the Cowboys were in a 3rd and 30, and I see the DBs lined up 3 yards off of sticks. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're about to catch a slant and burn all these corners and run for a 40-yard gain on 3rd and 30. It didn't happen, which is like probably the first sticks defense that I've ever worked in Schwartz history. But like, what are you doing? Yeah. We have Rasul Douglas, who no matter how many yards of cushion you give a receiver, he's still going to burn him. With no single high safety over Rasul Douglas.
Did you see that Rasul Douglas stat? He was targeted, I think, 43 times, and when he's targeted, the QBs have a passing rating of, I think, it's like 100 and 120 something.
It's probably 200. They probably
200 now.
They probably broke the passer rating.
How much of that is on Rasul, though? Because this happens to all of the corners, and you bring up a great point, because there's a serious disconnect between the organization to the coaches to the players. And I'm not just talking about like motivational stuff and buying into a message. I'm talking about from a scheme perspective and using these players in a way that puts them in a position to succeed. Rasul Douglas is not an off corner. Rasul Douglas has tight hips. He is a long corner. He is a press corner. He is a physical dude. I have zero question that he is not going to stick with a guy like Terry McLaurin or Amari Cooper if he is in off coverage. That is asking him to do something that he just doesn't do as a player. So the scheme doesn't fit the player unless you let the guy get up there and get connected early. He can stay in the hip pocket. If he can slow the speed guy down in their release and get connected, okay, now we're cooking with oil. Not only that, you throw off the timing of the route and the pass rush can get home. Jim Schwartz keeps complaining about the pass rush, doesn't have time to get home because the coverage is so bad. You're putting these guys in these positions. You're telling them, back up. This is where I want to align. You're putting them in an impossible spot. So it's hard for me to blame Rasul, Sidney, Ronald Darby, who was worse than he was in Buffalo. Jalen Mills hasn't progressed, and he had the injury, but he got worse last year. This is a disconnect between Corey Unlin, the defensive backs coach, who I don't even know if I can blame him, but he hasn't developed a doggone corner, hasn't made his safety better since they've been here. So they haven't gotten better, but is it on the scheme? Because the scheme seems impossible. The problem, there's bust happening at all different levels for different reasons. Jim Schwartz's defense, from a philosophical perspective, nobody jams the box up with defenders more than Jim Schwartz. There is zero connection between the second and third level of their defense. Even the first. Guys aren't getting out to the flats to help these corners that are bailing. They're not getting out there for support. When was the last time you saw a flat defender make a play on a ball on a throw to the outside? I can't think of one, especially on play action. Those guys are biting hard. We're getting ripped apart by play action. They have allowed a 127 quarterback rating against play action this year because they're so committed to the run. Patrick Mahomes has a 115 quarterback rating. The combined quarterbacks against us are 12 points higher than Patrick Mahomes, who is the best at play action in the league right now. This scheme is so dedicated to stopping the run and leaving your cornerbacks on an island, the guys just can't do it. Surprise, because we don't have elite talent out there. So what are you going to do? Should you mortgage your entire future for Jalen Ramsey? I don't think that's financially responsible when you're paying a quarterback and all these other guys. So what are you going to do? Change the coach. It's time. It's just time for me. And what's crazy is if they fire Schwartz and they promote Undlin, that base is going to riot because no one likes Undlin right now because he hasn't developed anybody. You know?
I don't think I've been, and I will admit, I've been on the Undlin train. It may not be a train. It may not be a train right now. It might be a speedboat it's a speedboat in a marsh right now. My propellers are getting tangled up in the seaweed right now in the marsh. But my argument is Undlin. We saw what he could do in Denver.
Yeah,
he had Harris. He developed Raheem Moore. He had a Super Bowl winning defense, and maybe there's a disconnect between Undlin and what Undlin wants to do and what Schwartz wants to do.
Right,
and
the technique doesn't match the scheme, which is part of my question too. I agree. Yeah,
right. And if Undlin gets promoted to defensive coordinator, maybe he can finally take the leashes off of these corners and let them get up in the faces of these receivers and let them beat them up and do what he did in Denver. Yeah. Because when those corners did what they did in Denver, Von Miller could get home, DeMarcus Ware can get home, every facet of that defense was able to get home with ease because they had corners to disrupt the timing of the receivers, and Schwartz is just there like, here, let's have the receivers get a couple of seconds of release because by the time they get to our corners, our defenders is going to get home. That's not the case. Yeah. The cushion between the DBs and the receivers, they're given 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds. But quarterbacks release the ball already. Yep. It's ridiculous. So like myself and Gino Camilleri yesterday on Twitter going back and forth on this being sarcastic on this pass rush, like, oh, it's the pass rush, That's because that's what everybody's complaining about when it's not the problem. Derek Barnett is getting in their faces. Brandon Graham's getting in their face. Cox is getting in their face, but they're not getting home because the quarterback's releasing them between 2 to 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
You saw last year there were 7 straight games where a quarterback released the ball within 2.4 seconds or less. They know how to beat this defense. Teams know how to beat this defense, and it hasn't changed all this year. So I give Schwartz credit for changing some things up late last year when they made a little bit of a run. He hasn't changed anything this year. Hasn't made any adjustments to give his corners help. It's ridiculous. It's just insane to me. And I agree with your point that Undlin at Denver let guys get up in the face. And if you're going to get poor play, you might as well delay them just a little bit, So, yeah.
So I think where Chris is going with this is we had a mini debate amongst our colleagues at PSN, and there's 2 words floating around right now that we want to get your opinion on. Retool or rebuild. I think me and Chris are on the side of retool, where this team is obviously not so much fixable by the trade deadline, but, little moves here and there could definitely boost this team up, as well as letting go of certain people, while some others are kind of leaning on the whole rebuild thing and kind of start over since Wentz is young. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think that the Eagles are an organization, as much as it's easy to blame Howie right now, and as much as people want to say that he's bad at drafting and bad at bringing in guys, whatever the case may be. Either way, I don't think Howie's a guy that's going to take his long-term plans, and his plans are pretty clearly laid out up until about 2021, when then you have to start to worry about serious cap considerations and guys getting older, and we're already kind of an old team already. I don't think he's a guy to go 3-4, and then all of a sudden throw those long-term plans out the window. So I cannot see them tearing it down. As far as a rebuild, maybe that starts to happen more where you're shipping coaches out, positional coaches and things like that. They have a lot of first-year coaches. It's weird. They promoted from within. I think it was a mistake. There was brain drain happening with guys leaving. Anyway, I think it's more of a retooling. Absolutely. They're one game behind in this division.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. They win in Buffalo. They're at 500. They have a bye week, and then you can sort of figure things out. And I think if there's a coaching move that happens, then I think it happens during the bye week, and maybe that's when a trade happens, not when we're recording, hopefully. So,
well, the bye week doesn't come until November 2nd. We got Buffalo and Chicago.
Is it Buffalo and Chicago first?
Yeah, we have Buffalo and Chicago first. So it's Buffalo, then trade deadline, then Chicago.
That's the trade deadline. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So instead of the bye, put the trade deadline in there. But again, I don't think this is a team that is going to, after Buffalo, go into the trade deadline and say this is, we're tearing all of this down. Especially if they beat Buffalo. There's zero reason to do it then, for sure.
But like I said, victory.
Yeah, I don't think they tear everything down right now. That would be silly. That would be. I mean, what are we, the Cleveland Browns? What are we talking about now? Like I say, it ain't that, as bad as things seem, it ain't that bad. And I get not fulfilling expectations and all that. This is still a pretty talented team. Coaches got to get their act together, in my opinion.
Absolutely. We have, it's week 7. Last year Dallas got Amari Cooper.
They were 3-5.
They were 3-5 after 8 weeks, and then they won 7-1.
Right.
That's what a player can bring to this team. And people want to say it's not a one position that they can fix that's going to bring in, that's going to fix the whole team. But when you say that, you look at the Bears game, we're going to get LeBlanc back, and probably Maddox at that point too. Everybody's saying Darby's close. I mean, he was active yesterday, but obviously didn't play. So
I still don't get why they didn't use him yesterday.
I saw that before the game. He was emergency only. Like if corners got hurt, then he would have won the game. But
kind of like David Johnson in fantasy.
Oh, it's just fucking all these experts. Thank God, my opponent Derek, who is also a Cowboys fan, who works for PSN.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Derek. Thank God he had Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And he got 7 points out of Mahomes before he got hurt. I
think the point is, what is the message that you're sending to the team if you do it within this week? What are you telling all the other guys? We gave up on the season?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you think things are going to get better in that locker room with that message going around?
Right.
No way. You're at the point of no return at that point.
Right. And the Cowboys, they have 5 games in November because they play on Thanksgiving. So they have the Giants. They have a bye next week. Then they have the Giants, Vikings, Lions, Patriots, Bills. If they come out of that somehow 2-3, then you're looking at a team that's 6-5.
Yeah.
Going, and then if we have the Bills, if we beat the Bills next week in November, they have the Bears, the Patriots, the Seahawks. So you somehow come out of there 2-1. You're looking at, or I think I have the Cowboys 7-5. Sorry, 7-5, and then the Eagles would be 6-5 going into December, where they have Miami and then 4 divisional games in December. And the Cowboys have the Rams. They have us again. They have the Bears, and they have the Redskins at the end of the season. So it's still anybody's division if you're not the Giants or the Redskins. So really, by anybody, I mean it's either Cowboys or Eagles division.
Yeah, it's still within grass for the birds.
So everybody wants to say the season's over. Well, 1 game back. You're 1-1 in the division, 2-1 in the division. Sorry, no, 1-1 in the division, and everybody wants to jump off the boat.
Yeah.
But we have Maddox coming back. We have LeBlanc coming back. If you want to do nothing to the secondary, You have all that coming back. You have Jernigan coming back. Cox is going to hopefully, going to stay getting healthier. Ridgeway's and maybe Anthony Rush does something because they love those practice squad players.
I know Liam loves him.
Oh, Liam loves him. We've been banging the drum for a linebacker core of Alex Singleton and T.J. Edwards for so long. Even though that would be detrimental to my twin, that moved Grugier Hill.
Yeah. I think that would be more detrimental to Gary, because Gary, even though he led the team in tackles yesterday, he just doesn't fit the mold of what needs to happen back there.
Yeah.
If it's detrimental to him, good.
Yeah.
Get someone else in there.
Relax, Camus.
He was the MVP of the season a few weeks ago when he had an interception in the end zone. That was it. That was his contribution to the team so far this year. But who knows what's going to happen with Deshaun? Who knows if he's going to get surgery or not get surgery? Who knows? But so when you look at an addition to this team, I think if you're so set, if everybody's so set on doing nothing to the defense because they've got so many guys coming back on defense, then get a speed receiver. Mm-hmm. Call up the Jets. Call up Joe Douglas. Get Robbie Anderson
there
over here.
It's probably going to cost T.J. Edwards at least.
No.
He knows that's what's going to happen.
Call up Miami. Get Devontae Parker over here. If you're going to talk to Denver, if you want to stay old, so get Emmanuel Sanders. Get someone that can burn the shoes off of a DB so this whole anonymous source can be right and they can open up the short game because the short game is not open right now because they know you can't throw deep because no one's going to get deep. Mm-hmm. And if they are going to get deep, Aguilar is just going to have Aguilator
hands.
Aguilator hands.
Aguilator arms. I like that.
Aguilator arms, and just be like, I'm not. Oh, it's too far. Oh, sorry. And that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. No, but I agree. If they don't do anything on defense, definitely give call to Robbie Anderson. They liked him last year. They liked him more than Tate, according to reports. I like him a lot. Everyone is saying, why would they trade Robbie Anderson? They haven't signed Robbie Anderson to a contract. His contract expires this year. And if the Eagles want to do a deal where they ship off a third, just like they did for Tate last year, and then Robbie Anderson hits the market, there are plenty of teams that want to overpay for a decent wide receiver that's especially a speed threat like he is. So you're going to do the old, third-round pick, compensatory pick swap again. I'm totally fine with that as a rental if it adds some life to this offense and delays us having to get some real answers there. So, yeah, I'm big time for that. And to your other point, how mad were we of the Titans game? The Carolina Panthers game, we're up, 17-0. I mentioned the Saints game already. Season was absolutely dead in the water, done. Week 14, Dallas Cowboys, lost in overtime, done. They found a way to get back. It's week 7. And I'm more pissed off than I thought I would be at this point in the season, but it's deserved because this team was supposed to be 12-4, 13-3. Yeah. And they smelled their own shit, didn't work out for them. Well, maybe they get their heads right and they go on a run.
12-4 is still possible.
12, right? I mean, who freaking no? Who are we to say? The division is wide open too. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm pissed, but I know it's early and the season is quite long, and I know we have a really good quarterback too, and that'll keep us in a lot of games, and has kept us in a lot of games where other players and the entire defense has played poorly. So, bright spot.
Can we settle this whole Wentz thing? Because if I see one more Wentz or Foles debate every time the Eagles lose, I'm gonna lose more here than I already lost.
Is Nick Foles going to get a starting job back from Gardner Minshew, UDFA?
I don't think that's happening.
I mean, porn star Minshew over there with his porn stash. I mean, obviously, I haven't been watching him or following him, but just looking at, I only know this of trying to look at quarterbacks for next week because I got Lamar Jackson on bye next week. Yeah, so I'm looking at quarterbacks in fantasy, and apparently he's been 40% completion rate the last couple weeks. So if they're winning, but
he was under 50% last week against the Bengals, and that was the only stat that I saw. But he also threw for 255 yards and a touchdown in a big win, in a multi-score win. Before that, leading into that game, I think he was at 64.9%. I'm going off memory here, but I think he was right around 65% completion coming into that game. Guy played well. And, you're going to have some sputters as a rookie quarterback. Mm-hmm. But if the Jaguars see something there from him, and I think they definitely do, then I think it's hard to replace him. Maybe when Foles come back, he doesn't necessarily get the job right back. Maybe it's on a shorter lease. But at the same time, I think they're paying Foles, which is crazy how much they're paying him. But the whole Wentz versus Dak, the world, Foles, Philly media, whoever you want to put him up against, Wentz isn't going anywhere. So who cares? Who gives a fuck if you wanted Foles? That time is done. That's why it was so weird with the anonymous source. Fuck are you trying to do?
Exactly.
He's not going anywhere. That battle's done.
Wentz versus the Philly media, some of the Philly Twitter media pundits of the world. I'm not going to name any names, but
you're itching to name a name,
aren't you? I'm itching at initials right now.
Yeah. But I mean, like, honestly, you're going to go first before he does. Mm-hmm. This is Howie. This is Doug. This is Wentz. If you think any of those motherfuckers have a short leash, you got another thing coming to you.
I absolutely agree. Speaking of the point that I've been trying to make for weeks.
Speaking of Doug, and I made this point earlier. So some troll on Twitter, and I've been learning how to stay away from the trolls. But this guy was irking me. He was like, how are you going to call on the firing of Groh when Peterson's the one calling the plays? He doesn't have a guy like Reich that he trusts to have influence on the plays. Reich wasn't calling the plays, but he had influence on the plays. Mm-hmm. He was in Doug's ear. Phenomenal. He was in Doug's ear saying, we should do this or that. It's obvious that Peterson does not trust Groh. And it shows in the play calling. Like Doug's play calling has been so questionable, and I'm being nice by saying questionable, but he doesn't have, like, Reich would have been like, no, you don't do this shit.
I think it's more than just that he doesn't trust Groh. Like Frank Reich, looking at like how he is with the Colts, the guy's all about discipline and direct. Groh looks like the goofy kid that wants to be part of your crew in the playground, who's swinging from the monkey bars to the swings, and he falls on his face like a million times. Reich is more that guy, like, no, I got your back. Like, this is how we're gonna handle it. Let's walk this way. It's more like respect aspect. That
sounds like a personal issue you're trying to talk through right now.
No, I was not that guy. Okay. I stood away from the monkey bars. I was always too tall for them.
I think there's a serious, and I used this word the other day on Bleeding Green Nation, the brain drain that's happening, and the hubris of promoting from within. We know what Frank Reich can do as a coordinator, as a head coach. We see it in Indianapolis. He's doing a masterful job. What has Mike Groh done? Mike Groh was fired. Well, number one, Mike Groh was hired by his dad at Virginia, led a terrible offense. Mike Groh was then fired by his dad. 2 red flags for me right there. Mm-hmm. The only person that has hired Mike Groh as an offensive coordinator is his dad and Doug Peterson. He was a passing game coordinator for the Rams offense that ranked one of the worst in the league when Jeff Fisher was there. Maybe that's a Jeff Fisher thing. But where are our examples of Mike Groh improving anything? And they just went with a voice that they could promote from within that isn't disseminating the info up to Peterson, that is allowing this offense to evolve the way it should. Doug has an idea of what he wants the offense to be. He needs somebody with a different type of voice, with different ideas. I don't think Groh has any of that of value that he's passing up, because Groh's job is to go to the positional coaches, collect all of these ideas, have his own ideas, and say, Doug, okay, what about this for a third down menu, right? What about this for 4th down? What about this for the red zone? Okay. Doug can't do everything. Doug can't work 168 hours in the week. He's got other things to handle as well. He's got to be a head coach. He calls the plays. Absolutely. Buck stops with him. He also promoted Groh. That's his fault too. He's got to make that right. Groh is not helping this offense grow. I didn't even mean to do that.
It's my kind of guest with the puns. But I think Mike Groh, I think his claim to fame to the Eagles was like kind of a Sean McVay, but not even remotely close to that caliber, was that he knew Alshon Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. So they were like, "Oh, come on in. Alshon Jeffrey. He referred you to us. What else can you bring to the table?" I was his position coach. Did you see him in Chicago? Oh, all right, come on in. And that was it. That's it. You know,
The wide receiver coach. And like, all credit to him. Nelson Aguilar got out of his funk that year, maybe because it was a psychiatrist or whatever he was doing or who he was dating. I don't know. But he got his act together when Groh was a wide receiver coach. So there's that. Who else have they developed at wide receiver since he's been there? They've all regressed. None of them have developed. So that's part of the problem,
Matt Collins lost 24% of the time.
Matt Collins at the line of scrimmage, and I answered my own question yesterday in the game. Like I tweeted out, why does Matt Collins at the line always wave his hands up in the air like what the hell's going on? And everybody was like, well, you just answered your own question because he has no idea what's going on.
Did you see Jair jack him up with that in the Green Bay game? Did you see the clip of that? Yeah. He's looking at Wentz like, what the heck's going on? And Jair's chirping in his ear, just being Jair Alexander. He's a chirp motherfucker, and then just jacks him up off the line. Like that dude has no clue what he's doing. So then J-Jaw can't see the field because he's trying to learn multiple positions. Matt Collins can't handle one. Mm-hmm. You want a rookie? I mean, this is third year being around the system. Matt Collins is. I know he was gone last year, but he's still subbing and stuff. He's still in meetings. J-Jaw can't see the field because they want him to be Alshon's backup, but they also want him to learn multiple positions.
See, that's another thing. That's another thing I want to call bullshit on Doug. He says that it's going to be hard for JJ to see the field while Alshon is healthy. Then why the hell did you draft him that high? Like, what you drafted
and then restructure Alshon?
Exactly. What, to be like the number one receiver in 2021?
Right.
So you're going to spend a second round pick on a guy instead of fixing this defense?
Yeah. My thing is, like, why is J-Jaw not seeing the field over Matt Collins? Like, if everybody in the world can see Matt Collins looking completely lost out there, why the hell is there no changes being made to progress the offense? Yeah. It's like everything has to do with regressing the offense.
Let me interrupt you for a minute because remember earlier when I said,
I'm going to regret this, and
we're like the high school kids who are trying to hang out with cooler kids to make us feel good. You have never. In our podcasting career, 15 episodes now, referred to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside as J-Jaw. But as soon as Michael Kist...
because I didn't feel like saying the whole name now.
You have to say J-Jaw. See, this is it's like my students at school. As soon as one kid starts doing something cool, they got to do it too.
So you're on your revenge tour because of what I did to you last week. Is that what it is? Is that what's going on right now?
Me out against when we had Talon on. You call me out on bullshit. I'm calling you out.
But the crazy thing to me with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, JJ, whatever you want to call him.
See how long of a name that is?
It's crazy.
The whole sentence.
I had to get used to
Arcega Genesis, but it's
yeah, you got to get used to saying Arcega too. It's weird. But like they always talk about, like, guy makes a drop, they want to go back to him. Nelson Aguilar makes a drop, one of his many. They go right back to him. Mm-hmm. J-Jaw has been sitting on his drop in the Lions game for 4 fucking weeks now. That's the thing he thinks about when he puts his head down on the pillow. That keeps him up at night.
Goddard fumbles, and they throw a touchdown to him a few plays later.
Right after. They do it with everybody else. Because why? Because that's how you get a guy's confidence back and you let him put it behind him, right? Mm-hmm. J-Jaw's sitting in this shit. That's crazy to me. Even if he's not any good, I know a lot of people are down on him right now. That's fine. They can have that opinion. Wide receivers take longer to develop, and the Eagles aren't doing a good job of it right now. Give the guy a chance to get his head back in the game. Are you gonna ruin his confidence? It's wild to me. Like, that's just another drop in the bucket of players being mismanaged and the scheme and how it comes back to the coaching for me. Absolutely.
And then we got Miles Sanders not knowing what it's like.
That's not talking about. No Sanders slander on Flipping the Birds. We've gone over this too many times already.
3rd and 4.
Okay, I'll let you take this one little shot.
And Dillard helps seal a beautiful hole for Sanders to go through, and he just tries to be shady again. Like I say every week, he tries to be shady so much that he saw the comparisons coming in, and he's like, I could be shady 2.0 for the Eagles. Let me try and do that. And then he tries to bounce it outside, and then he just gets slammed on 3rd and 4. I don't like the play call anyway, but it worked. It would have worked with Jordan Howard.
Yep.
Jordan Howard just went right through, probably would have gained 6-7 yards there. And the drive would have been going. But nope, they punt on 3rd and 4, and then Dallas just comes and scores again.
You know what? I'm blaming the coaches on that one.
I mean, honestly, they had the wrong person on the field. I blame the coaches for it too.
There we go.
I didn't like not passing, but I liked, the run call because of the look that they got. And you're telling me one-on-one with Jeff Heath coming across the formation, all you have to do is fall forward a little bit against Jeff Heath. If you make the right read, you're already pretty much at the marker by the time he makes contact with you. Put your arm out and stiff arm and whatever. There's a few things that happen with Sanders on that play that's happened to him all season. Number one, indecisive, vision, processing, whatever the case. Just not seeing the hole as it happens. The defensive end comes in and attacks Dillard inside. Normally, Dillard would have a kick-out block there. If he has a kick-out block there, Sanders is going off his butt, right? But the defensive end comes in and attacks Dillard to the inside. That's when you have to turn a kick block to a log block. You want to roll their shoulders like a log, just to give you a visual representation of what that means. He turns him, rolls him like a log. Now his butt's facing the other way. Guess what? You're still running off Dillard's butt. This is a simple read. And the inefficient footwork, the inability to process the action happening in front of him, and then the finishing. I mean, the guy goes down on first contact every time. And there's analytics to back that up all day long. So that's my problem with Sanders. The burst is nice. The burst is above average. People are talking like it's world beating. I don't know if they watch other running backs in the league, but it's good. It's a very good burst. The burst and the athletic ability means nothing if you don't know what to do with your brain, your feet, and all the other stuff, because you're never going to get there. He's a receiving back. We drafted a receiving back in the second round. And we got lucky with that because he was not a productive receiver in college. He just projected well that way. Yeah. I don't know if he's ever going to change when it comes to the running. And I know it's inexperienced and people want to be hopeful for that. I'm not trying to bury him or anything like that. He is so far away from being a feature back, a bell cow back, a type of guy that you would draft in the second round in today's NFL. So far away right now.
I think at this point, looking at how he's been used and how Jordan Howard runs, I know Jordan Howard, he needs to be signed to an extension. There's no question about it. But he won't be used like a guy who's going to be signing an extension. But Miles Sanders is looking a lot more like Tariq Cohen than a feature back right now.
Good receiver, great pass blocker so far, which is a surprise. That's a plus because we thought he was going to be a terrible pass blocker.
Yep. Yeah.
He's been awesome. He's been excellent. But yeah, it's a long way to go if he wants to be a guy that you can put on the field and not go, oh, they're passing. You know what I mean? Then that starts to become a problem.
Which I think we could tie back to the coaching staff on how badly developed majority of these young guys really are right now.
Yep.
And I was pretty much the Doug Peterson and company shooting themselves in the foot.
Who develops guys other than the tight end coach, Justin Peele? Did I call him Justin Peele? Is that right?
I think it is Justin Peele.
I think you're right.
For a second, I thought Key and Peele, and I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's Justin Peele. I've been watching a lot of Toy Story 4 at the house, so I was thinking of Key and Peele.
That's what Brian does on the regular, and that's what I'm about to do in a few weeks.
I've only seen it once. I'm not gonna lie.
My wife
was not a Toy Story fan.
My wife and I saw Toy Story 4 for the first time a couple weeks ago. It was all right. She cried. It was all right. She cries at everything, though. Now the pregnancy emotions, those hormones.
Congratulations.
That explains a lot when you're texting me.
Thank you. Yeah. It's she's this Friday she'll be 35 weeks this Friday. So she's coming.
Oh boy.
She's gonna be born through another Eagles heartbreak, and I'm going to be screaming, and my wife's going to be screaming in labor, and I'm going to be like, wait, Tom Brady just threw another touchdown, and and my wife's going to be like, fuck you, what are you doing? And it's going to be a messy day.
It's part of the job.
Yeah.
Who else can we crap on?
Well, look, okay,
I'm going to take away from him.
I'm going to go back to Aguilar because I cannot
think about kids.
I cannot stand the effort that I saw from Aguilar yesterday, and then to say that shit about like the throw from Wentz, like I had a lot of field in front of me, and I don't know, it seemed like Wentz he was rushed a little bit.
Well, so hold you on that real quick. Wentz being rushed, like. The offensive line, I know like a lot of people praise them in several of the games, but they have not looked like a real like cohesive unit at all. Like they haven't looked like the offensive line that everybody praises.
Well, Lane Johnson had his worst game that I can remember in a long time.
Oh yeah, he let DeMarcus Lawrence just like Ginobili him throughout the whole game.
Yeah, and Dillard held up well, other than a couple key ones. But like for a guy rookie starting against Robert Quinn, who's been very solid for the Cowboys, who's a veteran pass rusher, I thought he did really well. I mean, Quinn was trying to hit that cross chop pretty much all day, which is a tough move, for a rookie offensive tackle to handle. But yeah, I mean, it's just another case of another offensive player having the worst day of their life at the office, and it seems like that happens week after week. And they're pressing so much. And Carson's pressing, Dallas Goedert's pressing. All these guys are either pressing or they're just not buying in. And that's the big disconnect for me. That no one's going to get better until they start buying in and just let the game come to them.
And another question with the focus of the offseason was to keep Wentz in the pocket. Does anybody feel like that's more so hurting him than helping him? Because Wentz is at his best when he's doing Wentz things.
Yeah. I mean, he has done Wentz things.
Yeah, but at times he looks like he's limiting himself because he doesn't want to
they aren't moving the pocket for him. They aren't moving the launch points for him. You watch like Jared Goff. When Jared Goff starts to get pressure starts to mount up on him. We saw this in the Seattle game. The Rams will go tempo and they'll start moving the launch point. They'll start rolling them out. They'll have a different depth. What Jim Schwartz does, and I do this myself sometimes. I'll put it up on Twitter, but he'll chart launch points and see. Okay, he was 5 yards back and ended up right behind the guard, and he'll check that. And then at the end of the day, you see on your graph paper, you see where they're typically throwing from. Goff's is kind of all spread out. You know what I mean? I think Wentz's is more concentrated in the same spot. Teams know where to rush him. I think that's a problem. And Wentz has been excellent at sack avoidance this year for the most part. Definitely better than last year. I looked up the numbers a couple of weeks ago, and it was a lot better. It was more like his 2017 year, even better than that when it came to the numbers. But they aren't moving the pocket for him. And when the pass rush starts to get home, they have no answers other than maybe to chip, and then you're having a guy get out to his route late. They aren't moving his launch points. Teams know where to attack them, and the offense isn't doing him any favors that way. So, and the offense is so condensed. They're crowding the short areas. They got short drops. So with the short drops come short blocking techniques from the offensive tackles, offensive guard, and center. They think, oh, I just got to hold this for 2 seconds. So they'll jump set and be real aggressive with their sets. But when it's all covered and then Wentz has to hang on to the ball for a little bit more, guys are getting home, and he's under pressure. I mean, we saw last night. I think he was under pressure 13 times as opposed to 18 times not under pressure, if I'm not mistaken. It's too much. It's just too much.
Because he's holding on to the ball because no receiver's getting separation. It's
such a fun Monday talking point, right?
Yeah.
Guy holds onto the ball. You're watching the broadcast copy. Makes no damn sense to me. I don't know how you saw that from the broadcast copy.
Yeah. Every armchair quarterback on the why is he holding on to the ball too much? I mean, if you see the whole field, everybody's fucking covered.
Yeah, and you can't see the whole field. You're seeing 10 yards. You're just seeing the rush.
You're seeing the rush. You're seeing Wentz take a sack, and then you're there eating your chips and wings. Like, oh, should have kept Foles. Foles got the ball out.
If I hear that one more time, bro.
But
I haven't had too many Foles truthers in my mentions, so you guys are having a very different Twitter experience than me. Maybe I muted all of them already. I don't know.
You've definitely muted all of them because it's like Twitter has that stupid algorithm that you can see other people's likes that you don't even follow or anything like that. And I see this person like this, and it's like, I'm tired of Wentz. I want Foles back. I'm like, why is this on my timeline if I don't follow you?
You can get rid of that, right?
How do I do that?
So
if you see that someone likes something, or it'll show a tweet of somebody that you follow or that follows somebody else, whatnot, you can click on that little dialogue part there where it types that out, and there's an option to see that less often.
Oh, I can't wait to do this all over my timeline after the show.
And it'll give you it'll say this person you follow and 5 other people follow this person. I'll give you 5 options to be like, I don't want to see who this guy follows. I don't want to see this person's tweet. If I wanted to see him, I'd follow him.
I'm going to see a lot of those. I'm going to see a lot less of those initials I've mentioned before. Yep. I'm going to see a lot less Trump. I'm going to see a lot less rated R things on my timeline of people like
you got a wild timeline.
My timeline is a carnival full of mystics.
Pandora's box.
It's like it's something to behold.
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I follow about 400 people on purpose, I follow you if I think I can learn something from you. I follow you guys, so I'm not throwing shade on you guys. I don't have you muted. I haven't turned off your retweets. Probably about 50% of the follows that I have, I've turned off their retweets. I probably muted about 10 to 15% of them.
Oh, I can't wait to do that too.
You gotta turn off all them retweets, man. It's crazy.
This just changed my Twitter game. This just changed my Twitter game.
I would have never found out that you offered me in all those Jalen Ramsey trade on talks.
See, no. I mentioned like I'm not afraid to tag you. I'm not afraid to tag you for these.
Yeah, you can't do nothing about tagging.
I'll at you. I don't care. I'll at you. Like Jalen Ramsey, I'm like, okay, at B Cameron PSN, I'm sending you to Jacksonville for Jalen Ramsey. But that's it. But okay, and so before this becomes a wildfire, I want to get your opinion on this because it's going to happen. It already happened when he got released a couple weeks ago, and then when he came off Twitter, came back on Twitter, went to school, he didn't go back to school, he needed an edit on his essay, he needed a non-edit. What is your opinion on Antonio Brown being the savior of the wide receiving corps?
I mean, from a talent perspective, how could you say no? From a just a general, what the fuck are you doing with your life perspective? I have a problem bringing him into a locker room that already seems fractured because I feel like that's just pouring gasoline all over the place and bringing the fire right into it. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
See, the way I see it, he wouldn't be an anonymous source. He would just come out and just say like he's pissed off.
Oh, he would make a YouTube video about him swimming in his pool.
Right.
And next thing you know, you got Doug Peterson's phone call out in the world to everybody, and he's saying some crazy shit. Now we got a whole nother scandal. I'd rather not know shit about Doug on that level.
Yeah, I agree with that much.
We're gonna get Peterson's search history out if we find Antonio Brown.
Yeah, Antonio Brown's gonna dox him. Yeah,
Yep.
that'd be something.
We're going to have a D'Angelo Russell on the team with his Snapchats.
Oh, my God.
But, yeah, I'm going to pass on Antonio Brown. I'm going to pass on that.
So, who can we really bring in that would be more than just a spark plug? Because I'm all for Robbie Anderson. Yeah, but I don't trust the game plan for them to really like bring the best out of him after what we saw with Golden Tate last year and how Golden Tate is looking with Pat Shurmur. Like, I'm suspect about bringing anybody into Mike Rowe's grasp.
I think that that Tate was a guy that they had trouble implementing because they had so many different slot guys. I think the Eagles would have a plan for a guy like Robbie or a guy even like Emmanuel Sanders that you could put on the outside and scheme it to the offense pretty easily because they've used guys like Torrey Smith. They had a plan for Mike Wallace. We don't know if it was going to be perfect, but they had a plan. They had a plan for Deshaun Jackson, and I really like the plan that they had for Deshaun because they used him. I think half of his snaps that I charted were on reduced alignments where, you've got plus split, and then inside of that is a reduced alignment, so he's lined up on the numbers or inside of the numbers and tighter to the formation or slot alignments. He had half of his routes week one from there. And a lot of his explosive plays in the past have come from there. Tampa Bay just didn't use him there. The Eagles were using him there, and it was going to be really dangerous if he was healthy. So I did like the plan that they had for Deshaun, so that gives me hope. I think they really do and would have a plan and no issue integrating a deep threat. They're a very different type of receiver than Golden Tate is, and they eventually figured out Tate a little too late, 4 or 5 weeks down the line. But I don't think they would have an issue bringing a guy like Anderson in, bringing a guy like Sanders in, and implementing him right away. I mean, at the very least, if you got man coverage, Sanders can get open. A little bit older, but the guy is one of the better technicians in the league. And Robbie Anderson just flat take the top off and at least loosen things up underneath and give him something to think about. We don't have anything like that.
And Devontae Parker.
Right, Parker too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these guys have different qualities or different type of players. I think they could all help, and I worry less about their integration. And I know that's a big buzzword and whatnot, and I don't trust Mike Rowe a lot. But I feel like the style that they're looking for is a style that they feel they want to use because they know how to use it.
Is that a good answer for you, Brian?
That was a good answer until Devontae Parker. You know how I feel about Devontae Parker.
Yeah, the only player you want from Miami is Xavier Howard, and he's not coming. It's not happening.
Meant to be. Bring the X home.
And I keep refreshing Twitter, waiting for this breaking news, but it's just going to be Anthony Rush, and that's it. They're going to say
the sleeper app just showed up saying breaking news, and I paused for a second, but then I looked in and it said Kerryon Johnson's missing some time. So there's some fancy news for anybody.
But like we need to look at now at these teams that are hobbled quarterbacks or terrible quarterbacks like Chicago. Let's send them Nate Sudfeld for Taylor Gabriel. Or let's look at Atlanta and send, because Matt Ryan's very hobbled.
Mohamed Sanu's available for.
How about Sudfeld for Julio Jones? I mean, go for goat. You know,
go for goat.
You know, it's.
That's what hurt the potential trade for Robbie is because the Jets got Sam Darnold back, and now Adam Gase foolishly thinks they're kind of like back in this thing because they have a pretty good defense, and Darnold's, I think, for my money, is a pretty solid quarterback, so they can start putting some games together. So that kind of hurts things. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you have to start looking at teams that are kind of taking. Broncos are one of them. That's why I think Sanders is out there. I think that's what Adam Schefter said.
Sudfeld for Harris. That's it.
I would love
Chris Harris Jr.
For Von Miller. That was like the
You're
only,
pushing the limits.
that was like the only trade rumor that I just didn't pay attention to. Like as soon as I saw Von Miller can be had for the right price would probably be like the next 10 first-round picks.
Yeah, you kidding me?
Like this guy's an all-generational talent. You don't trade that guy, no matter how bad the team is.
If you trade a first and a fourth in Madden for Von Miller, it goes through easily. Just want to put that out there. Like it just goes right through. It's all green.
I mean, that's how I think a lot of these fans think these trades work.
Yeah,
because of Madden.
I mean, we are all GMs in our own mind.
Yeah. As I'm often told.
So Mike, I just this same question last week. Now after obviously it's back-to-back games we've lost, back-to-back games we got blown out, and back-to-back games the offense looks like they're a JV team. What's your expectations for the rest of the season for this particular Eagles squad?
As far as like overall record, like what do I think they're going to do? Like maybe division wise and whatnot. Excuse me, sorry, I didn't mean a cough button. Yeah, man, I don't know. I feel like the overall feel I have for the season is the feel I had for the Dallas game. Coming into the Dallas game, I said I have no idea what could happen. I know exactly why this could suck. I know exactly why this could go well. And it sucked for the reasons that, I feared coming into it. Like I said, I have a lot of faith in Doug Peterson to get this ship right. And you have a good quarterback, and you still have a talented roster. I don't know how much it matters if you don't start to make changes on defense, just from a philosophical, schematic standpoint. If it's anything different, I mean, if we get the same stuff week in, week out, we're going to be in boat races. I don't think I can trust this offense to put up 35, 40 points again. That's not fair. It's an unrealistic expectation for an offense that already has proven that they are really good at falling behind early, then getting in a groove in the middle of the game, and then the defense falls apart again. It's fall behind because the defense fell apart. Offense gets it going, gets back in the game. Defense falls apart again, and it's just not manageable. They're playing like less than a 500 team right now. They're not a less than 500 team.
Mm-hmm.
But until they get their act together, I mean, I have a hard time saying that they're going to have 10 wins. I think it's very possible that they come out and surprise us and end up with 10 wins. I mean, I think the highest my confidence could possibly go right now is our 9-7 team. Until I see more.
Might be enough.
And that's that might be. It's true. Dallas can lose a team like the Jets. Dallas can put together three straight losses. Absolutely. You don't know what's going to happen. You got to win that second one against Dallas. 100% you have to win that one. But yeah, season's not over. It's a lot of wait and see. I know it's a cowardly thing. I have no idea of where this team is going to be in 1 week, let alone 6 weeks, let alone 8 weeks, 9 weeks.
If the Cowboys can lose to the Jets, they can lose to the Giants. And that's who they have after the bye.
Yep.
You know, that's going to be Danny Dime special.
Starts right there.
Saquon's back.
Saquon Barkley and his magically healed high ankle sprain that he's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
And Evan Ingram is going to have to catch more than one ball for the Giants' sake and my fantasy team's sake. And, you know, it's going to start right there, and they're going to drop their first division game of the year, and the Cowboys will go spiraling down, and the Eagles with a newly rejuvenated Chris Harris Jr. and Emmanuel Sanders on their roster will run the table.
So wait,
I think that trade is very possible too. I'm
just trying to speak it into existence.
It's very possible to get those two.
Yeah,
absolutely. They're both in a contract year. They're both not coming back. They stink. Yeah, and they stink. If they offered a contract to both, they're both going to say, Joe Flacco's the quarterback. we're leaving.
Yeah.
And they're not going to franchise them because the franchise tag is enormous for both. So just turn the ball over to Drew Lock. Send both of them, Sanders and Harris, over to the Eagles. Let them shine where they should be. And if they sign an extension, they sign an extension. I mean, I think Harris would. Maybe Sanders wouldn't, just to see what, do a Golden Tate thing and say he wants to go win somewhere and then sign with a team like the Giants or the Redskins. And that is what it is. You get a comp pick for them. But, it's the right thing to do. But who knows if John Elway will ever do the right thing for a team.
Yeah. Trades won't fix this team. Ultimately, they got to fix themselves, but it helps bringing in players in.
Yeah, you can definitely bring a Joe's energy to either the offense or the defense.
Yeah, gives the message that you're doing something too,
and that you believe in this team. So, I asked this question last week as well, and I'm not letting Chris answer this time because Chris completely obliterated my my rules of the question. So, Mike, playing Howie, what move would you make at the trade deadline if you can make only one move to help this team right now?
Ooh, only one.
I give him like 4.
You gave me like 7.
Yeah, I mean,
gotta be one.
How old's Chris Harris Jr.?
31. Oh,
31?
30 or 31?
I think it turns 31 like maybe next week or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Chris Harris.
And I can't even say that Schwartz is fired, but I'm going to go with the younger guy. I'm going to go offense. And I'm going to go with Robbie Anderson. And I would go as high as the second. Because, I mean, and here's the thing. I'm getting that contract done before he comes here. Yep. I'm not pulling some dumb move, letting some guy come here and have all the leverage. Because then you're talking about, you're moving from a second-round pick to a late third-round pick, late compensatory third-round pick down the line or whatever. That doesn't work for me. I want to get younger and I want to get faster. Robbie Anderson checks both boxes. And I want to sign him before the deal's done, basically. Handshake deal, whatever it is. But he's going to have a contract when he comes here. So that's who I would get. Get younger, get faster, be able to win some of these boat races. I would love Chris Harris, but then you're also getting older, too. Mm-hmm. That's going to cost some money. I love Chris Harris Jr. If they trade for him, I'm not going to be upset. But, again, I'll go younger and faster. Let's stretch some fields and have some answers for the future as far as who the deep threat's going to be that isn't over 30 years old.
Imagine Robbie Anderson and Deshaun Jackson lining up. A healthy Deshaun.
Yeah. Then the snitch will be happy, and they'll get the underneath stuff.
Let him be happy, and then he can be happy on another team next year.
Yeah, Alshon. I mean, we don't know. But anyways, with that being said,
well, we can never have Alshon on the show now.
That's all right. He'll do his interviews with Josina Anderson.
Damn.
I mean, if it is Alshon, how crazy is it, and how dumb do the Eagles look for number one restructuring the contract to where they can't get out of it? And wasn't Alshon the guy that dropped the pass in the playoff game last year?
That's why it doesn't make sense to me. Like, Alshon's on a redemption tour more than anything. Like, and he's been the most targeted receiver by Wentz.
They're feeding him. They're feeding him the shield screens, the slants. They're doing everything they can to make sure the guy's happy.
I feel like everything points towards him because, like you and Ben said on your podcast, like it just sounds like stop throwing it to Aguilar.
Yeah.
It's so like, and I will.
Albert Huggins from Houston's practice squad, another defensive tackle.
Practice squad moves.
Let's go. This is why we do these.
Breaking news. Practice squad moves. I knew news was going to break during podcast. Yeah. See,
always be recording.
See what happens. It's oh my god. But as I was saying, if the snitch is calling for less targets to Aguilar after yesterday's debacle and his Aguilator arms, I will completely go back on that, because like I tweeted yesterday, and I know this bears no weight, but I am a high school coach. I'm a high school varsity coach, and if I have had athletes that have had elite talent that could get them full rides to colleges, but they gave me no effort. They thought they were hot shit. They thought they could come to practice whenever they wanted. I had a freshman last year, and I coach varsity track and field. So I had a freshman discus thrower last year who was great, probably the top freshman in our entire county, and he came to practice whenever he felt like it. And I cut him. I can't base my practices, I can't base my meets around someone based around a what if. And if Aguilar is going to go out there and say, maybe I'll catch this, maybe I'll give some effort today, maybe I'll throw Wentz under the bus, we have no place for him on that team. Like, get me a receiver, get me JJ. JJ wants the snaps. JJ wants to play. Give him out Aguilar snaps.
Yeah. Aguilar is making $9.4 million on a contract year as well, and is giving the Eagles nada. Doesn't make any sense. Just doesn't make any sense.
Smart guys would ball out on their contract year to try and get a team to overpay for them.
Right. Yeah, that's the cautionary tale. The guy that balls out on his contract year, right?
That doesn't happen on the Eagles. we're immune to that. That does not happen.
It happens every. You know what? You know where it happens? It happens on every other team, and then they get their contract from the Eagles,
and the Eagles pick
them up. Byron Maxwell, Nnamdi Asomugha, Ronnie Brown.
We could be Washington, picking up Albert Hainsworth and stuff like that. So it's never that bad. I think is the message. It's never Washington bad.
That's true. Nothing's ever Washington bad.
To hire Jay Gruden, fire Mike Rowe.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. I'm completely fine with that.
Completely fine with hiring Gruden, or completely fine with firing Groh?
Hiring Gruden to replace Groh.
I just got to dissect a little bit.
Gruden's offensive arsenal was great. You saw what he did with every quarterback on the market.
Got Kirk Cousins paid.
Yeah, got Kirk Cousins the first ever fully guaranteed contract. He made Alex Smith look like an MVP QB last year. Yeah. He made Colt McCoy relevant. He made Mark Sanchez kind of relevant for a game or two. He did what he could with
Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson. He had. Who did he have this year? Trevor Siemian. No, not Trevor Siemian. The other Denver quarterback that sucks.
Keenum.
Case Keenum, 38-7. And, he did what he could with all of these different quarterbacks of different ages and sizes and shapes, and he made them relevant. So if he comes here, he could probably do the same thing. It's a testament to Washington's ownership and general manager, especially when Kyle Shanahan said it was great working with my dad. It was terrible everything else.
Yep. Gruden's not the problem there.
Shanahan's looking like a boss on top of the NFL right now.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be all over Jay Gruden. Give us some different ideas. Stop that brain drain. Even if it's just for a year, that could go a long way. Bringing those ideas in the building, really breaking them down and seeing how they work with this team.
They just need some creative help. This doesn't look like there's no pop in this offense whatsoever. Yep. There's no type of I can't wait to see this player ball out today. No, it's like oh my God, who's not going to catch the ball today?
Yeah, and whenever they get cute, it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
They're bad at scheming up new stuff, man. It's just it seems like they're stale, and they've gotten pretty good production for most of the year. But man,
can I call out Liam Jenkins right now?
Oh my God, you're gonna get fired today.
Liam just retweeted the Eagles' announcement of agreeing to sign Albert Huggins from Houston's practice squad. And Liam says, Eagles made a smart move here, realizing fans are going to need some hugging.
Oh my God.
Liam.
I love Liam. Not for this, but I love Liam.
On that note,
yeah.
Actually, I did want to. This podcast gonna be pretty long for everybody, but whatever, and I know you got to get to Lion King, but I just want to. I wrote an article a couple of days ago that got zero traction. I'm very surprised that it didn't. Not because of my phenomenal writing, but because of the subject. Since 2010. Howie's been general manager for 9 drafts. And I know Joe Douglas and all this stuff, but he's been the general manager.
Is this the drafted 15 DBs article?
Yes. Yeah. So 2015, I excluded that. 2015 because that was Chip's GM year, and that was Howie's back corner office year. Yeah. So he's only drafted a cornerback in an early round, first or second round, 3 times.
Yeah.
And all 3 times have been second round. Nate Allen, Jarquan, whatever his name, Jarrett, Jarquan Jarrett, and Sidney Jones. And every other defense in the top 10 from 2010 until this year, every at least one top 10 defense has had a rookie on their secondary that was drafted in the first or second round.
Right.
Does Howie need to call up a draft specialist, or can we blame Joe Douglas for all this crap?
I mean, I think it kind of depends too, because you trade for Darby. What was that, a third? If I'm not mistaken, something like that.
He traded a third.
Very, very young player. So I kind of count that in there too, even though he already had 2 years in the league. But yeah, I think valuing the cornerback position similarly to how they value edge guys would go a long way in helping this defense. And a lot of people are saying like he can't draft DBs. He just hasn't really tried with high draft capital picks. I mean, Avonte Maddox is good.
Yeah.
Sidney Jones was a swing at the plate that a lot of people were going to be willing to take. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's that. But you get into the 4th, 5th round, 6th round, you get into those guys. How many of those guys really hit? They should be happy with what they got out of Jalen Mills, even though I don't think he's a very good player for where they picked him,
For every Richard Sherman and Chris Harris undrafted, you find there's a million Curtis Marshes.
Yeah.
There's a million Dexter McDougal's. I know he wasn't ours, but he was Jets, I believe.
Oh, but they were loving him when he was ours.
But when he was ours, everybody was on the Dexter train. Yeah, it's
a layered question. How much of it is Joe Douglas? Because I don't think you can say how he sucks at drafting DBs. I don't think the sample size is big enough, and I don't think they've taken enough big time swings on him. You could say that they need to prioritize it more, and then see what you can develop. If you can't develop 4th and 5th rounders and 6th rounders and whatnot, if you have no faith in your coaching staff to do that, you might have to draft guys that are a little more ready out the box, and that's going to cost a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But that sucks when you have to draft an eventual replacement at left tackle. And this is a bad cornerback draft, by the way.
Oh yeah, DeAndre really Baker does not look good.
Yeah, so
I really liked him coming out of Georgia, but watching him on Giants, I'm happy we didn't spend a pick on that.
This upcoming draft might tell us a lot because this is supposed to be the cornerback draft. And if the Eagles don't pick a cornerback high, if they haven't already traded for one, the city's going to riot. So this will be, I think, the bigger test coming up.
Oh, we're not going to have a first-round pick because they're going to trade it to the Jets for Tremaine Johnson.
Well, then you won't need a corner, right? I mean, maybe.
Technically, we won't.
I guess he is a body.
Yeah.
And then him and his dreads will just look good being blown in the wind, chasing someone again. And that's just the Eagles' way. Dreads being blown back in the wind, chasing after a receiver that's blown by them.
Yeah.
All right. This Lion King time.
We were supposed to preview the Bills, but honestly, I think this was more necessary than the Bills.
Yeah. There's a lot of things going on with the Eagles that aren't necessarily Xano related and matchup related. I'll put it to you this way: the Eagles suck against play action. Josh Allen can't hit a deep ball to save his fucking life, so it's bad versus bad. We'll see who sucks less. There's your game preview right there in a nutshell.
We're gonna see John Brown blow past a DB.
Right.
And
unless it's Chris Howard Jr.
Josh Allen's going to put it through the fucking scoreboard.
Josh Allen's going to overthrow it, and it's going to go to Lake Erie.
Yep.
And then Jalen Mills is going to wag his finger like, nope, that was me.
He did it last night.
I did that. And that's how it's going to go. And then they're going to be finger wagging. They're going to be waving their arms back and forth like, nope. Then the ball's going to be out of the stadium. Like they had something to do with that.
Covered. Boom. We did it.
Yep. I feel like this week leading up to the Bills, even though it's obviously not even close to being a rivalry game, and the Bills really haven't played. I mean, they played the Patriots tough, but it's going to be like last week. It was Dallas hate week last week, and it didn't feel like it until Friday and Saturday, and because people just the Zach Brown thing, the anonymous source thing, all that crap that was leading up, and that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen this week. All this crap now with Brandon Graham, Malcolm Jenkins talking back to Lane Johnson, and Nelson going to get cut? How's his relationship with Wentz? That's going to dominate the storylines now, and then all of a sudden we're going to be like, oh wait, we have a game on Sunday. Let's preview the game, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, thank God it's only Monday, so it's going to be a long week if they don't make something happen. So Eagles fans, thank you so much for tuning in to us. I know this is probably our second midweek that we've ever done. Huge thanks to Mike for joining us from Bleeding Green Nation. Mike, where can everybody follow you at if they don't follow you already?
At Michael Kist, NFL, KIST, and then put Bleeding Green Nation into any podcast app you use. We'll show right up for you.
All right, that sounds great. I'm Bryan Cameron. You can find me at BCameronPSN. He's Chris Infante. You can find him at Infante54. You can also find the podcast at Flippin' Birds Pod. Any last thoughts, Chris? Because you look kind of like you're pensive right now.
I have a lot of thoughts, but I keep them to myself. If I let my thoughts blow up, we'd have
another episode.
We'd have a 3-hour episode. But again, thank you, Mike. You've been one of the most down to earth people we've ever talked to.
Absolutely.
We're very honored to have a cool guy like you to hang out with some losers like us, and get Brian to say J-Jaw now. That's what he's gonna say for the rest of this.
It's gonna stick to me. Just because I know it irritates you right now.
It doesn't. It looks like it irritates you. It does not irritate me. It doesn't irritate me at all.
You look irritated right now.
It's because I always look irritated. I'm a teacher.
He does have that look about him.
I've
seen that look a lot when I was younger.
I always look like my students always look at me like, "What's wrong, Mr. Infante?" I'm like, "Nothing." Like, "Oh, it looks like something's wrong." That's just how I look all the time. That's it.
Yeah, it's just all of you. That's
the teacher thing.
No offense.
Whatever.
I gotta master that in order to be a teacher.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mike, for joining us again. So thank you so much.
Of course.
We really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for listening to we are 15 episodes down. Sounds like a milestone, but it really isn't. But we'll catch you all next week after an Eagles win. Maybe. Go Birds.
Yes, sir.